Shaolin, now while I touch, I am a master here.
Welcome to the wardrobe sessions. Is what I'm going to call it. I don't know what I'm going to call my edition. No, I think it's about time that we flip the tables a little bit. And in this session, we've got myself, our Rhino, and Sid. And I get to sort of ask a few of the questions instead of getting peppered and talking about Rod Stewart squeezing the Eagles over and over again.
Rod Stewart squeezing the Eagles.
Rod Stewart squeezing the Eagles. There we go. That's a book. But no, so I think just getting an understanding of sort of your points, Sid, around the ethos of the band, talking about exactly kind of what us lads have been talking about, what you did with Tommy and how you've managed to sort of start getting involved in much more than just songwriting, into social media and into garage band and Logic, and sort of how your creative process worked alongside learning from the master himself, Rhino, and our other mastering man, Tommy G. Because that's something that I am kind of interested in, to see your development throughout that as well, and kind of us as a band throughout that electronic phase, putting down the guitars. So I want to pepper you both with a bit of that for my personal pleasure.
That's fine, mate. Absolutely fine. Looking forward to this, man.
Well, do you want to go with the first question, Rhino? Do you want me to pepper him?
Hold on, what have you planned something here? What's going on? Rhino's got involved here. Come on, let me have it.
We had a list, didn't we, Ryan, of questions that are not suitable.
Yeah, it was a big list.
But I suppose just starting at the beginning to set a bit of context, as you know that I like, but understand your sort of briefly your musical journey to kind of where we are now. I guess obviously we've all been in different outfits and stuff, and growing up wanting to be a musician, and now here we are talking about it. So just a brief story of Sid, please.
Brief. Okay.
Well,
yeah. Music came to me. Well, it's year 5 in school. I had this really arty teacher, and she encouraged me to sing in a choir and stuff like that. So that happened. I enjoyed that. She introduced me to like drawing, art, like Renaissance painters and stuff like that, pre-Raphaelite painters and that. And I'd never experienced art before, so that was kind of like my introduction, and that kind of blew my mind. And then a few years after that, I think LOAstate came on the scene. I heard Wonderwall for the first time. That changed my life. That was like, yes, because I'm from a big football family, so it was always football. And then music always comes hand in hand with football, doesn't it? You know what I mean? It's like if you're within the football culture, you kind of music's like I say, hand in hand with that. But yeah, from listening to Oasis, then there was a lad on our street who had a guitar. He was teaching everyone how to play Wonderwall. So go around to his. Learn that.
Things don't change. I think that still happens with people, that when you want to learn guitar, someone across the way or on the next door button can play that, and they'll teach you that.
It is, mate. That one guy on your street who does it. But yeah, I think I got an acoustic for around that Christmas, just many moons ago. Proper started in a band near the end of high school with just a few mates, because I think it was around that time of the New Rock Revolution, the Libertines and that were coming out, and everyone was starting bands. Arctic Monkeys were coming, and it was just kind of like, yeah, bands, but this is the thing to do. And yeah, it's just kind of gone from there, really. It's just been one continuous thing now. It's my life. It's my main interest. What I love doing, I love listening to music, love talking about music, love studying music. That's kind of what it progressed to. It kind of became more of a study than just listening. It was like, who are the best artists, who are considered the best artists, where are the best albums or considered the best albums, you know what I mean? And then just literally tearing them apart and just seeing how they were made, and just research all the time. That's kind of how I listen. But that's how I get my influence.
That's sort of a mature progression, I guess, that you get into actually understanding it. At first, it's a lust in it. You're just involved in the moment with music. I think you find yourself at particular parts of your life or particular things that have happened around music. You kind of lust for it. But I suppose as you develop into a musician and get into it, that's exactly where you mature to try and try and study it and understand it more to be able to kind of replicate and do it yourself, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's like learning through imitation half the time. You wanting to know how that person did it. I think Ryan will agree with, like, when he's getting his sounds and stuff like that, you'll hear a certain sound and it's kind of like, how have they done that? So then you'll go into it, how they've done it, and then you'll just try and make it yourself. But then because you are doing it yourself and you're a different person, it kind of becomes yours along the way. It's nice.
Yeah, totally. And I think that with your sort of setup, Ryan, we spoke about it obviously on a couple of podcasts ago, around how you sort of start with the music, all your family obviously playing music, and you've just been surrounded by it, I guess, and you kind of stepped into it. For you to go through to that element of studying it, I guess, or understanding it, I guess, came completely via ear or via the people around you, the environment. I suppose you were sucked into it that way, as opposed to a particular, I don't know, choice, or I'm not saying you didn't have a choice. That sounds horrendous. You were born to be, but you know what I mean. I suppose it was around you there, and you kind of got that knowledge of it really sort of naturally, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me it was about having an identity during my teenage years. I suppose it's probably going back to what Sid said, like it was just something to do at school, but then it was like, I think the first sort of band that really struck me was actually quite late on. It's probably my uncle introduced me to the Smiths at about 14 years old, and that was it. Then it was like it was almost as if I'd been it was like as I was just listening to pop music, and not saying like that's what I was doing, but until someone showed me the Smiths, it was like, wait a minute, no, I don't know music at all. And then it started, and then he just kind of opened me up to, like I say, mentioned my uncle there. He introduced me to the Smiths, and then it was like a lot of 80s, 90s bands, and then that was it then. And I just immediately found this wealth of music and identity that I could relate to. And not many other people were listening to that at my age group. And then obviously then when you go out to the Northern Quarter, when 16, 17, 18, you find these people who are doing the same thing when they were your age as well.
Then
you end up,
it.
yeah. And then, yeah, it's good. I think that's probably was my sort of catalyst was the Smiths.
Yeah,
definitely.
It wasn't. I never really got into the Smiths. I don't think. Well, I don't think I should know. Really, it's my own being. But I didn't. No one kind of really showed me until I came really to Manchester. Never really connected with the Smiths. But I think that it must have been a euphoric moment, obviously within Manchester and the bands, and with the amount that came through after that, I suppose.
It couldn't really sound any more Manchester, could there? It's like literally, if you think of a band in a way, because it's just grey and miserable half the time, the weather and stuff like that, and they just seep out the concrete, the Smiths, a little bit. It's so real. Everything they're singing about is just, you see the characters all the time. Stuff that Morris is saying, like it's just stitched into Manchester culture, and they're still a bit of a Marmite band over here. I think you do. You either love them or you hate them. Same with Morris here, but I think that's great. Like, you shouldn't have to be liked by everyone. I think it means you're like a unique or an individual if you completely split the crowd. Like,
yeah,
that's a good trait, and that's a big thing for the Smiths for me, and that's why I love them, because they're not pleasing. They're not trying to please everybody. They're just saying how it is, really.
Yeah, I know that's quite inspiring, I suppose, in it as you're growing up throughout that. I can imagine that being quite nice. I think the creative process, I guess, is one that interests me in a sense that we like back then, I suppose. It was always around writing music with your guitars and writing it, and it still obviously is. But I mean, I suppose it was never understood how it could develop, and how songwriting and how making music can develop into how it has done now. And I suppose that transition between going from being on your guitars and writing it naturally and writing the music that way to moving into kind of what we're doing now, which is something a little bit different. Our writing process has changed. I think that's what interests me as to what comes next after that, because you've seen that develop into something more, I don't know, new world type in terms of music. Music's being allowed to change, being allowed to do what it wants in so many different ways than what it was. There was only a certain amount of categories back then, I guess. And I suppose that for me is something within that we've kind of expressed within our tunes, and how we've been able to go to something completely different, and writing music maybe a different way around. Do you think that's something that you, I don't know, planned to do or wanted to do? Did you always think that you were going to do it kind of the same way before you did it kind of this way? If that makes sense, I guess.
I'll start by answering that, and then I'll go more to Ryan, because Ryan did start it, but it came from literally. It was Ryan who's kind of brought Logic to the table, and I kind of remember him always messing with stuff. I can't remember how it actually started, but I know for a fact that me and Ryan really got into it as a way of writing. Near the end of Cupid's, it was kind of like I was going round to his, and it was a completely new world. It was just like track there, record your vocal. You didn't have to go and pay. You didn't have to go and hire a studio out. So it was kind of free, and it was like, oh right, you can come up with an idea straight away, and then it's on record. You can go home and listen to it all night, and it's like it was just something that changed my life again. You know what I mean? So I don't like going over to Ryan. When did Logic and that start? When did it come into the picture for you, Ryan? Can you remember?
Yeah, so it's really strange because I was only thinking about this the other day. Logic is obviously a DAW, which is DAW. I think it stands for digital audio workspace, but I might have that wrong. Well, I'm not claiming to know, so there you go. And it's really weird because my dad actually had a DAW, which was Cubase, and he had Cubase when I was in primary school. Because my dad's a musician, and I do remember like towards the end of primary school and beginning of high school, I was actually using Cubase and making little beats.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's mad.
And it was it was like a very, very early version of it, and it was so limited what it could do. But it was my first time of actually getting on something like that. I remember like recording vocals, and I couldn't even tell you what I did on it. But yeah, that was that. And then didn't really do anything at all until went to college. And then basically, whilst me, Tommy and James were at college together, that's where we started learning Logic. It was like one of the courses that we did then.
That's pretty mad to think about even that in itself. You, Tommy and James been at college together, being introduced to Logic, and then flip it however many years later, you're actually just doing that, what you was doing before. But
the challenge with it is that the entry point for somebody of that age was difficult because you meant you had to buy a Mac, and you meant you had to have, and that costs a lot of money. So then my mum and dad bought me my first Mac, and then started recording. But but what I feel like now is that everybody's kind of got a MacBook or has got Logic, or I mean, like I say, everything's advanced so much now that it has become a really accessible entry point for people to start making music, which is a very good thing. Positive thing.
You definitely see that more now, I think, as well, and people being able to share the tunes or being able to buy a guitar, not only write a tune, they're able to record a tune and put some out there, or without even having a particular musical bone in your body to play an instrument, you could make a top class beat or a song, which I think is inspiring itself.
It's on the go as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's not like you're not like when Ryan brought the Mac to the table and stuff like that. I was like, I think I still had a piece here or something like that. It was a while ago. I was like, what the fuck? I'm still waiting for it to turn on now. And it's the fact that you can do it in your bedroom, whatever, or then you can go and take it to the studio. You could even I think I was speaking to Ryan about this the other day, like listening to J. Cole and stuff like that. He has a studio on his tour bus set up, so when he's on tour, he's recording his next album.
Yeah,
it's like so efficient. It's so efficient, and it's like,
Yeah, 1975 did that as well.
right, okay.
But you've got to, because like I say, the amount of hours we've wasted in a bus. You know,
exactly.
all we could do is like play FIFA or read, and then, you know, it does make absolute sense. And that was a kind of thing for me as well. It was my way of making music using other instruments and sounds, but something I could do in my own time, in my own space. So I could put some drum beats down, I could put the bass down, I could play guitar. I think it helps being multi-instrumentalist as well. And then you can just sort of develop it. And
it's a good point, actually, Ryan. Just interrupt you there. Multi-instrumentalist. It kind of brings it out of you a little bit, doesn't it? You have to be adaptable with it, and it kind of, you're learning new skills. You're not just stuck to. I mean, that might be a bad thing, because it might, if you're not focused on one instrument and stuff like that, you might never master any of it. But at the same time, for me, it's rhythm-wise and drum beat-wise, and going with my vocals and that has really, really helped. Like timing-wise, because you sat playing to a click all the time, and you're doing this. I don't have a MIDI keyboard at the minute, so I'm just like on my actual keyboard. But the timing-wise, it's like you have to be starting good at timing, because you're practicing. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's a good point as well. Is that you know, do you remember the first time? I remember the first time going into a recording studio. That was with the Tides. And prior to that, I'd never really recorded other than just like bits of stuff in college. But yeah, having the ability to practice that. I mean, some bands go into the studio and have never played to a clip before. That's not a bad thing. It's just like the opportunity never arises.
I was 100%.
Put me under. Yeah.
It's that moment where obviously
whack it out your ear. Get out of here. Get out.
What's this thing in me out of time? This is not in time. Put it back into time. Don't that sort of stuff. I remember going in as a young lad, obviously, and you're just going from playing in a rehearsal room, or in your loft or wherever you might be, and then going into a studio to record a first, you know, professional song or whatever at that stage. When that click come about, it was just, what is this? What's this knocking on in my head non-stop? I want to play my song, but
I love that you said that was out of time.
But yeah, because I've been against it. Well, I've been playing guitar for 3 months. I should know exactly what was going on. But it wasn't just touching on that. Not to digress too much, but that was exactly a learning journey into actually this is how you've got to be able to play your music in time to be able to understand how to play your songs properly, because you've got a song but you're not even playing your own song properly, and it makes you realise, crap, I've got to develop this song, you know, even more than what it kind of was. So it taught me a lot in terms of just that sort of etiquette in writing and singing and stuff. But it was a funny time, like you said, when you first did it. Like, well, that was for me anyway.
It's really good to see, though. I think one of the most magical parts of starting a band is when the band first goes into the studio, and then they'd have their next rehearsal after recording, or have the next gig after recording, and usually it's like 10 times better. Just from them listening back to everything, and I was that. My bands were like the same. It was like you could just, everything was 10 times better after you've been in the studio.
There's a reverse of that as well, right? I think where we learn as well is going. A lot of touring bands do this. Is where you go on tour and you're that shit up because you've been playing the songs every single night. You're all in sync and stuff like that. Walloping the tour out of the way and then going straight in the studio because you're on it. You know what I mean? And stuff.
We were blessed really with the amount of time we were given at Blackburn with Paul Weller. Well, by Paul Weller. 100%. When I look back at that now, that's really where we learned our crafts as recording.
I learned how to fail
musicians.
Well from there, mate, because it was like I wasn't very confident, and literally I found out all my flaws in that place, where it was like I got to, for this band especially, I got to get a lot of that out of the way. So like I said to Denny and stuff like that, when he was a bit try and give you confidence when you're in the studio on that, Dennis. Like, don't, because I I see him being in a similar situation to what I was in then, when it's the spotlight's on. Because I've gone through that. Going into the studio now is, I stopped looking forward to going to the studio, and I love the studio because I was worried about that and I didn't feel confident. Now I go into the studio, I'm so excited because I'm like, right, I know how to get the best. Well, still learning, but at the same time, I know a sweet spot where I can go in now, and I'm like, I'm on the road straight away. And even if I struggle, it takes me a few times, I know that I'll get there. You know what I mean? So it's
exactly.
Yeah, Ryan, definitely.
Was that your because I don't really heard much about that session. I don't think then. What stage of life was that for you? Had you done much recording before that, or was that your real sort of first proper professional recording session where you actually took that away from it? I guess I don't know when was that.
We've done a few. Like Manana's, we did a lot of
studio,
sessions.
did it in Rochdale? Was it Studio?
Yeah, Eve Studios.
Eve Studios was the one.
That was an experience as well, because that is like a really independent, unique studio, and we went in there, and I remember we recorded our track live, as you know, that's the way it used to be. And that was a really good experience. But we did 64 takes of one track.
It did.
But it was a pleasurable experience. It was like it was beneficial to do that. So that was, you know, a way of doing it that we all learned, and it sounded really unique.
I think it is. And what you were kind of alluding to before, Ryan, around coming out of the studio, being able to play and perform the songs that much better. It's kind of you going into the studio to record your song. You're actually at that stage, I suppose, in that sort of a bit more of an amateur stage. You're going into to a degree to learn your own tunes, to properly learn how to play your own songs that you've kind of written to that best quality is what I kind of found and learned along the way with it.
Definitely.
I like studios that, because like you just said there, Luke, you go in to play your song, obviously, but you're going in there to craft the sound that you wanted as well, and you might not have had that opportunity. You know, if you're a young musician, you can only afford one bass and one bass amp. Like I like studios where they bring something to the table in terms of the instruments or amps or guitar pedals, and I think while we were down at Weller's place, that was like a bit of a playground, because there was all sorts of instruments knocking around, different basses, different amps, an array of options, really. And it was kind of a way of going, hey, well, this is the song, but like we could actually craft our sound here as well. And we really did. Like we how many times do you reckon we were down there, Sid? And for how long?
We had about 48 tunes banked, didn't we? We've been down there that long. We go down whatever opportunity we got. I mean, like I said, very grateful for him to give us that opportunity where it's like we got a really good deal. We had an engineer when we were down there, a place to stay when we were down there.
We were so lucky with that.
Yeah, man, and it was great. Like you said, we learned a lot about the studio then. We didn't learn a lot about releasing tunes because we never fucking released them. But it's like, that came next, I think. I'm still trying to do that with, but yeah, that was a great experience.
Yeah, we're very lucky to. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's class.
Yeah,
I think with that, moving on to where you are now in terms of going to the studio, like you've just said, it's totally our kind of comfort zone, I guess, for this particular band. And I think I've found in previous bands, touching on that, is that it's a bit of a scarier place, I suppose, to go. But I feel like our process down there, particularly with Matt being able to get the best out of everyone like he does and being able to form that extra member of the band, it's such a zen place to be, I guess. When things are going well, obviously things can go wrong and it's not as a smooth sailing. You know, obviously people are losing their minds with some stuff, but it's a pleasure to have that and to see how different, I suppose, life was before I suppose doing it with you boys and doing it professionally and doing it in this particular way. So it's been very pleasurable. Also a journey that's taught me a lot as well.
100%, then. I agree. Completely agree.
Thank you.
What's break?
Water break. Pause.
Should we talk about the catering experiences in the studio and rank them out of 10?
Yeah, 100%.
Studio.
I think the Christmas dinner has got to be number 10.
Oh, the Christmas dinner was an absolute winner. That was great.
That winter session, didn't it? That completely and utterly. It was like getting a hug as you're going into your.
You need decent meals. Like James is good for it in our band because he's a good cook. There's like a lot of good cooks in this band now, but James tends to get to push to James because James gets his drum takes out the way, doesn't he? And then he's like, and everyone's like, well, James got nothing to do, so right, James is cooking tonight.
I was going to say that you'd say there's a lot of good cooks in this band, but we'd pretty much force James to cook every single night, like it'd be and lunch. James when's lunch was doing a drum take, yeah, but lunch has got to be here for half one because I'm starving.
It's so important.
He would make some absolute corking meals. And Tommy'd always love his, this is where I find my love for it, and I've just had it actually before we come on this chat before the show, was avocado on toast.
Oh my God, it's like a necessity down there.
My God,
non-stop.
Literally 4 or 5 avocados getting bought every day just to sit on windowsill to ripen. So thanks Tommy G for that. But that's going up there for me as a personal because it's still in my life now.
That's one plus point, yeah, but the avocado situation down there, I think it's on everything. Avocado on everything. There's like bread, avocado and onion, avocado with. Has anyone had avocado with a bag of crisps? Yeah. Well, there's no avocados left there, and there's no bags of crisps left. Tommy, we got a 50 pack of crisps. They're gone within the first day. Tommy Jesus walking around. There's trails around.
Literally was, and I used to love it to get to a point of the session where if you're there for a week or 10 days, or you'd be 3 days in, you'd be going, Tom, how many bags of crisps you had today? And it's like, I had 4. But then you're waiting to ask him by the 6th day. He might have had like 8 within the morning or something.
Where's Tommy G? Oh, there he is. There he is. It's great, man. It's great.
Multi-pack a day.
That was great. That's a good ongoing one. But going back to the food element of when we were cooking, when it was left to people who couldn't cook, and I won't go into any names and embarrass anybody, when it left to those people in the band.
Who you insinuating?
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready here. I'm ready. He's coming at me here.
No, I'm keeping names, and I'll let you make the decision of why I'm not mentioning any names, because I might have played a party to it with one particular person. But we were sick of having beans on toast and sick of having whatever we're having, and we just thought, well, we've got some beans. We can have a bowl of beans with a chopped up cheese string in the middle.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God! One of the best meals I've ever had.
That was lunch one day. Beans and a cheese string inside. That's what happened when it were left to people of that caliber.
There's your warning. If anyone ever wants to, was I involved in that? I remember eating it and being proud of it. So I don't know. Was I involved?
Proud of it?
You shouldn't be proud of it. No way.
You weren't happy, Ryan. I remember.
Pretty sure it was me and Ryan.
I don't care. If you've spent hours preparing a meal and it isn't good, I will tell you it's not good. There's no excuses for bad meals.
No, there's not.
I don't care about hurting anyone's feelings. If the food isn't right, you're getting sold.
Socially, it makes or breaks bands, the cookie situation, doesn't it? That's why it's been brought up.
Yeah. I think if we didn't have James, though, we probably would starve to death.
We won't be in this band. We would not be in this band anymore. Imagine that. When everyone gets a little angry about half 6, half 7, the Chinese is taking an hour and a half to order. No one wants to go pick it up.
Always a fiasco. Who's going in van to get Chinese? Oh, I should go and get it. About 45 bags.
I think it's always me who has to go as well.
Yeah.
It is. I time my vocal takes perfectly. I'm just like, right, okay, well, Chinese is getting ordered then. So I'll Matt, can I do my vocal take around 7:30, please, mate? It is. But yeah, good fun.
No, that is class. It is a funny thing is the cooking business and the Chinese business. When Matt, just to give that a mention where you stole Matt's lemon chicken.
Oh yeah, no.
Was it his?
Oh.
And then Matt, I hope you're watching. Sid's still not lived this down yet. I don't know if he still accepted full responsibility for it, because at the time he was a bit edgy, he was a bit rubbing it off a bit,
Was it squid?
Was it squid? Yeah, it was squid, wasn't it? Salt and pepper squid.
It was
And
replaced.
then you couldn't even eat it.
Oh my God. Yeah, that ruined the night.